Hi, I'm Emily, and yeah, I'll be talking about toolkits today, which is exciting. So I'm chair of the Finds group, and this is just a little plug. If you want to join the Finds group, you can, and we're really fun. We have a lot of social media content run by lovely Golfarine, who's in the room. Hi, Golfarine. And yeah, we're quite an active group. We're one of the largest groups. I think we just got over 1,000 members recently, which is really fun. While I'm nattering away at the beginning here, it'd be really great if you could fill in this quiz, which is going to let me know how, hi Catherine, how who we've got in the room basically. So are we looking at a room full of find specialists who I don't need to teach to suck eggs? Or are we looking at a room full of project managers, that kind of thing? And how familiar are you with CIfA's toolkits? Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that while I'm presenting on the toolkits, my involvement in them, in the creation of them, is quite minimal. So I've been involved with a few of them, but I'm mostly presenting the work of other incredibly talented people in this presentation. And there are some things that I don't know about their creation and sort of the intricacies of that. So I hope to do them justice today. I'd also like to acknowledge that most of these were funded by Historic England, and there was lots of other contributions in both time and funding from people and other groups as well. So this is what I'm intending to do. Oh, wiggling arrow. There we go. This is what my presentation, I hope, will look like. We'll have a look at the quiz results first if my computer wants to play ball. And then I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes, going through each of CIfA's toolkits, talking about what they are. Or first of all, I'll talk about what the toolkits are, how they fit into CIfA's regulatory structure, and then I'll go through each toolkit, what it does, what it provides, why it was created, and then otherwise, why would I be doing it? I'm talking about how it affects me as a find specialist. In what ways do I use the toolkits? What ways do I maybe not use them as well? And then we'll see how much time we've got at the end. I'm hoping there'll be a nice 10-minute gap for questions at least. And if it feels very tumbleweedy, then you'll get to watch me look at the CIfA website for a bit. So there you go. I've also got some questions for you. So hopefully you can pay attention because I'd like to ask you some things at the end. Okay, so quiz results. I hope you all managed to get to the Mentimeter. If you're still filling them in, then that's fine. I should be able to see you do it as we go. So here we go. Let me present this. I think you're still seeing, oops, black. Oh, there we go. Thank you for everyone who's filled in the Mentimeter so far. Heard them, haven't used them is the most common answer in our how familiar are you with CIfA's toolkits? Thank you to the people who put tool what's. I really did hope that some people would choose that. Made me laugh. And let's see who's in the room. Whee! I was really excited for that. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys have chosen more than one thing here because that was the intention. So a lot of people who are managing project with finds looks like the most common, and some people involved in finds processing. So great. Thank you all for filling that in. That's going to, I guess, inform some of the ways I talk about this, the toolkits. Right. Wish me luck as I change back to the PowerPoint. I think that worked well. Okay. So on with the presentation. What are CIfA's toolkits? If you're part of the Tool What Brigade, this slide is for you. So the definition of CIfA's toolkit are that they are resources to support practitioners to work consistently and adhere to professional standards and guidance. And they sit within CIfA's regulatory framework. I'll send a big shout out to Jen Parker-Wooding for helping me with this slide in particular. She is the lady of all toolkits and guidance and standards. So thank you, Jen. So within CIfA's regulatory framework, you've got some things that are binding for accredited archaeologists and registered organisations. And then you've got some that are strongly recommended for those same people. So amongst the binding regulatory framework aspects, you've got the Code of Conduct, which governs how a professional archaeologist should behave, and application of the rules in the Code of Conduct. is supported by standards guidance, policy documents, and good practice guidance. Standards, that's a capital S, important for when it's mid-sentence. They set out the required outcome for archaeological products, and they're supported by this additional guidance below. The policy statements and practice papers offer additional advice to support adherence to the code and or the standard. And then you've got the strongly recommended guide. So universal guidance is higher level guidance to support the delivery of the standard. So that's stuff like the standards and guidance for managing archaeological finds. Anyway, there's definitely ones that involve finds that sit separately to the toolkits, but they also refer back to the toolkit. So they're also kind of in this interlocked framework. So these universal guidance documents advise on what the profession considers to be good practice. And if you deviate from those guidance documents, that must be justified. The detailed guidance details the difference between different jurisdictions. And then, of course, you've got the toolkits, which are kind of advisory, but support all of those other regulatory framework aspects. So what's so great about the toolkits and kind of why are they a thing that's different from the standards and guidance, specifically at CIfA? Well, one of the great things about them is that they're developed by CIfA members, groups, and a wider archaeological community who are experts in their field. It's really a need is identified externally and internally, and then met with a toolkit. They're also free to access for members. You can just, I've been Googling CIfA toolkits, and that's what it'll all come up on the website. You can access them online, but in many cases, there's also a nice accessible PDF that you can download for offline access. I'm not sure about you, but sometimes I prefer to be able to search in a PDF document rather than trying to navigate an online search function on a website. So that can be really useful. There's this nice glossary function, which looks really sweet on the new CIfA website, where you've got the if you click on any of these bolded purple terms, then a little box will come up showing you the glossary description of what that is. And also recently, we've been adding some videos to the toolkits showing you how they work and kind of like guiding you through the most important aspects. They can be a little bit intangible, the toolkits, to begin with, to find what that one thing is that they are presenting to you and that is the thing that you should be looking at within the toolkit. So these videos are really, really useful. And I'm not just saying that because I'm helping make them. They actually are really good as well. Right, next slide. So what are the toolkits? Well, it's these. So you've got the toolkit for selecting archaeological archives, toolkit for specialist reporting, toolkit for recording archaeological materials, toolkit for public benefit, toolkit for managing digital data, also known as the Dig Digital toolkit. And then you've got two cheeky toolkits for finds, so specific ones, one for Roman coinage that's specifically reporting, and one for pottery, which handles a bit more of all stages of pottery archaeological work. I'm going to go through these almost in order of where they should sort of appear in a project planning, design, implementation, archiving. But there are a couple who are that are sort of out of order, and because they kind of all of them are to do with all parts of the project. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what way you start to go through them, basically. So the first one we're going to talk about is the toolkit for selecting archaeological archives. You might have thought I would put this at the end because it's about archives, but no, it's about starting it well at the beginning in project planning so that you can prepare well for creating an excellent archive. Let's have a look. So what is it? Well, it aids and informs the creation of selection strategies for archaeological projects. And it was really created in response to the storage crisis in museums. So I'm sure that you're all aware, a lot of museums have stopped accepting archaeological archives, and a lot of others say that their stores will be full in the next sort of decade. So there's a real need in archaeological practice to start to rationalise our archives that we're putting in repositories. There was also a lack of national guidance, which made this toolkit particularly relevant. Who does it impact? Well, pretty much anyone who works, creates, cares for archaeological archives. So as a find specialist, that's definitely me. But yeah, everyone from the project designer to the archivist will be will be impacted by this toolkit. So the biggest kind of thing that this toolkit provides is this selection toolkit. No, it is the selection toolkit, the selection strategy template. So this allows you to identify stakeholders and review points in your project. It tells you what you will do with each archaeological find type, and also not just finds, but other archivable documents, digital data, what you will collect, what you will record and analyze, and what you will put into the archive. And it tells you who the people are you need to contact when you might make changes to that strategy, and what points at which that strategy could be changed. Crucially, this is the creation of a selection strategy and not the selection policy. That's something that you would create internally at your company, based on your own knowledge of what you're collecting. But what this does is forces you to think about the factors that you need to take into account when you are creating a selection strategy. So those include the aims and objectives of the project, the local authority guidance, the collecting institution's collection policy or deposition guidelines, relevant research frameworks, internal recording and reporting policies, and also material-specific guidance documents. It also prompts you to consider what you will do when recording uncollected material on site, and also how you're going to dispose of agreed deselected material. And I just thought I'd put a little screenshot of some of the template files, because those are really one of the most important parts of this toolkit. And how has this affected me as a specialist? Well, here is a little screenshot of some of ASE's selection strategy about animal bone. And this is a little bit saying about where we don't collect unstratified animal bone. So basically saying animal bone will be recorded and assessed for selection, deselection, and the people who are involved in that process, and the review points. So during fieldwork, for example, if we found an incredibly rich feature full of animal bone, we might want to look at a sampling strategy. During processing and recording, we might want to prioritize the recording of significant data as opposed to if any unstratified material came in. So yeah, as a specialist, it has impacted me because I've been involved in the creation of a selection strategy template like this. It also has encouraged me to consider the significance of my assemblages as more than just a thing that I record and report on and then sort of forget about it. Like I have that I need to think about this as a specialist to make sure that the archives that we produce are actually useful archives and not just a big collection of random animal bone that I kind of want to keep because I'm like a hoarder or something. I also has encouraged me to include a comment on selection at the bottom of each of my reports. So especially for those early stage reports at eval that we might be going back to do the excavation, that might be just to be decided later on when we have the full assemblage. But at analysis level, I really should be like at the final kind of reporting stage. That's when I should be getting together with the stratigraphic. Well, I can't say stratigraphic today. Stratigraphic author, and the archivist to really discuss what really needs to go in the archive. And it gives me that clear guidance on how to act, who to contact when selection strategies need to be changed. Okay, one toolkit down, 6 to go. Toolkit for managing digital data. So Dig Digital. So this is a toolkit that supports the creation and management of digital data in archaeological projects. There are some really cool aspects of this toolkit. It's not a toolkit that I'm particularly familiar with, as it's a big archivist sort of central toolkit that I get told what to do from my archivist. However, I really got a lot out of when I was looking at this last night to finish my presentation. I got a really lot out of looking at the health check questionnaire, which sort of advises you what to think about with your own digital data. It's also got a data management plan template, which we use at Archaeology Southeast as well, and really fun info sheets on, for example, the FAIR principles, the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable principles that govern good archives. So this toolkit aims to enable the production of complete, ordered and stable archives that meet professional standards. And yeah, they are kind of important for everybody, but you may get specifically told what to do by an archivist who knows a bit more about it. So for me, as I was saying, I don't really use this toolkit a lot, but it has helped me to ensure that my data sets meet those FAIR principles, largely by ensuring that my metadata is up to date, the code lists that I include are complete, and that also my fields are described, so not just providing the code list, but being specific about what data I'm collecting. Toolkit for specialist reporting. This is probably the toolkit I use the most, and not just because I'm the accidental poster child of this toolkit. Thanks for that, CIfA. Because it's about specialist reporting, and that's one of the largest parts of my jobs. Jobs, I guess. So what is it? Well, it aims to improve the standard and consistency of archaeological finds reporting. And it comes after the review of the standard of reporting on archaeological artefacts in England, which was the Catamol 2017 report, which showed that the standard was not great. There was a lot of inconsistency between artifact reports. And so, yes, this toolkit aims to address that. Who is it useful for? Well, anyone involved in a project that will create archaeological reports. If you're commissioning those reports, it's really good to know what should be in them. If you're writing those reports, it's good to know what should be in them. So here's the main resources from it. So improving specialist reports is the name of the game, and in two ways it kind of helps us define those reports and what should be in them. So there were 3 reporting types that were defined in the toolkit. Type 1, the description, which is for relatively insignificant assemblages. Type 2, appraisal or assessment, which is for assemblages where there's potential for further work. It's where you talk about the significance of assemblages and what you need to do to get them to meet that potential. And then you've got your full analysis following detailed analysis of significant assemblages. So that'll be your sort of your big publications. And how it kind of gets you to write consistent reports is by this advisory checklist, which details what should be included at each reporting level. So you can see, can you see my mouse? So you've got this is just one section of it, little screenshot. It's broken down into more intense classification of artifacts. And you can see in a type 1 report and a type 2 report, there's only a certain level of classification required, but you would be expected to classify archaeological artifacts to the sort of full extent by a type 3 report. So how does this impact me as a specialist? Well, quite a lot. It encouraged me to go through my specialist reporting templates that I've made and add prompts for myself to make sure that I meet all the advisory checklist points that I'd like to meet. So I have these helpful coloured prompts. If it's red, I replace or delete it. So I'd replace this G with the amount of grams. I'd replace the type of intervention that it was. Green encourages me to fill in the blanks. So context containing animal bone included, blah, 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 Roman ditches, Neolithic pits, that sort of thing. And the preservation of the assemblage was generally poor. Generally, I should just put poor in there and then I wouldn't have to write it every time. And then blue is make a statement. So consideration of contamination residuality within the assemblage. You could argue that I shouldn't really have to do this too much because there is stratigraphic reports that will precede my report that will make those determinations as well. But I might put in here specifically if there are sort of burrowing animals that look incredibly well preserved compared to the Neolithic material in which they are found, and if there's been bioturbation noted on site. And I might also say if they're a articulated bone, which is indicative of low disturbance. I might also say that. So that would indicate an uncontaminated assemblage. So importantly for the specialist reporting toolkit, it's used in conjunction with the specialism specific guidance. So for me, that's specifically that's the animal bones and archaeology, historic England guidance. And it is guidance. I really want to stress this about the advisory checklist. Not all parts of the toolkit will be relevant for an in-house specialist. Some of my reports are 2 sentences long. I'm not going to put in a consideration of contamination and residuality in the assemblage for a large mammal, long bone fragment sort of thing. So it really is it is where it makes sense for you within your practice, but best practice is to include it. Okay. Toolkit for recording archaeological materials. So this is another toolkit that has come out of that Catamol report, aiming to improve the standards of archaeological data collection. This offers a consistent approach to the recording of finds during initial processing following recovery. So it kind of comes before the reporting toolkit in the sort of archaeological process, but the reporting toolkit came out before this one, so that's why I've put it before it. Who is it useful for? Finds processors, specialists, project managers, archivists. Again, it's kind of one of those toolkits that might affect you at all parts of the process if you expect to find archaeological finds in your project. Here is the main kind of resource that comes with the toolkit for recording archaeological materials. It's a materials word list that's offered as universal terminology that will enable access to finds records for all projects using this toolkit. So each material ID code is comprised of this material class, object class, and material type. And then you get this material ID code here. And these codes are really intended as a reference only. So they're not like, this isn't something you'd write on your archive bags, for example, as a finds label. It just helps align different organizational practices with a centralized list and also with future thesauruses from fish. So, and this is my understanding of how this toolkit can be employed as well. So, for example, we're developing a spreadsheet that's going to have all the artifact codes from different repositories on it, because we deal with many different depositing institutions that have different requirements for codes. And what would be nice is if they all matched up with, as well as with our own sort of ASE internal bag labels, with a material ID code from the toolkit for recording archaeological materials, so that if, I don't know, everyone at ASE was no longer available to ask for comment, you could just use the toolkit for recording archaeological materials to retrofit what our codes mean. Yeah, so now on to our first find-specific toolkit, finds reporting Roman coinage. So this has been developed by Peter Guest, and I've been helping him recently with some video editing skills so that we can produce a video showing you how to use the most important part of this toolkit, which is the template. I'll talk about that in just a sec. So this toolkit provides integrated resources and guidance to ensure the reliable and consistent reporting of Roman coins, specifically towards improving the standards in Romano-British coin studies. Again, that Catamol report, and encouraging the integration of Roman coinage into wider archaeological narratives. So, and of course, it's for anyone involved in a project involving Roman coins, but this toolkit really is specifically aimed at the person who will be recording them. That's part of the big resource that's associated with this project, which is the Roman coinage recording template. So in this template, you can see that you've got some fun drop-down lists that start coming up when you start typing into them. So there are 3 drop-down lists, one for one for Emperor Issuer, one for Mint, and one for, I've forgotten. It was denomination, Emperor Issuer and Mint. So you can see in here, we started writing uncertain and you get a list popping up of options here. And once you type in this, you get the dates. So you don't have to fill those in, but you can edit them if you want to make them more accurate. If you know that there's a specific coin striking period, issue period for that coin. So this standardizes data entry, and if this looks a little bit crazy to you, don't worry, because there's a nice video now that will show you how to fill this in. Coming soon. Okay, Toolkit for Finds Pottery, another toolkit that I've been tangentially involved in. This is mostly a Kate Hawkins led project with me providing, I guess, tech support. But this was a really nice project that converted the standard for pottery studies in archaeology into a toolkit. And it's important to note that this was supported by the 3 pottery groups that originally produced the standard: the Prehistoric Ceramics Research Group, the Study Group for Roman Pottery, the Medieval and Later Pottery Research Group as well. And all 3 of those also made up the Project Advisory Board, so they have seen and signed off the toolkit. So why did we convert this into a toolkit? So it's a very universally loved standard. It's mostly to take advantage of that toolkit format in terms of accessibility, to update it in lines with recent CIfA guidance, especially the specialist reporting toolkit, especially those report types, which were a bit confusing if you were using the terminology from the standard. It didn't really align with the report types in the toolkit. So they do now. And also we created in creating this toolkit, we created a replicable finds toolkit structure, sort of more generic, so that if any other finds type were looking to create a toolkit, we could use the toolkit for finds pottery as a sort of template. Again, anyone involved in a project involving pottery might benefit from this. And this is kind of what it did. So we simplified the structure of the original standard to improve the user journey on a web resource, updated it to align with the CIfA report type descriptions. We provided some templates for pottery recording, which weren't specifically in the standard. So you've got 2 templates in the same Excel spreadsheet for recording pottery at assessment level, so that might be spot date level, and also for recording it at analysis level. And also there's now an introductory video that takes you through the toolkit and what you can find in it, basically, and also some of the decisions that we made while we were updating the standard content. I think we're on our last toolkit, everybody. Well done for making it this far. So the toolkit for public engagement. Now this is launched, but there are it's a sort of a phase 2 launch on the go at the moment. I was talking to Jen about this earlier. That involves a lot of proposed CPD items, CPD courses to kind of encourage this to kind of get before more people and for more people to engage with it. It's a really interesting toolkit, a really great read, and it aims to embed meaningful public engagement within archaeological projects. And obviously, it's to tap into the enormous engagement potential within archaeological projects, increasing the social value of our work. It's kind of a bit different to the other toolkits in that there's not really a finds focus at all. It's really aimed at people commissioning archaeological projects, and also those specific people who are delivering public engagement and designing public engagement as well. I won't say too much more about this. It's a really brilliant resource. There's lots of information and fun info sheets. So if you want to check it out, and also look out for any CPD opportunities coming your way soon via CIfA. So in sort of summary, the toolkits provide an incredible resource that almost everyone can find something to suit them to improve their archaeological practice. And I will also use this opportunity to say that, again, I was chatting to Jen about this earlier, that there is a sort of formal evaluation process that's kind of in development to make sure that these toolkits are having the impact we intend to try and measure that impact specifically. And also we're looking at doing some surveys to see how people are using the toolkits and if they have any ways to improve them. So they're definitely not sort of static forever and ever. I think that's another benefit of the toolkits. Their online version is that we can update them, we can make sure that the links still work and stuff like that. So that's really useful. I hope you enjoyed this romp through the toolkits with me. And again, thank you to all the people who created them and who helped me with this presentation. Have you got any questions? And if not, I've got some questions for you. Are you going to be checking out any of the toolkits? I hope so. What are the gaps in archaeological practice that could use another toolkit? Can you identify anywhere where a toolkit would be very beneficial? And also, what could be improved about the toolkits? You know, who needs a survey? Just tell me right now, and I'll feed it back. And that's the end. So I could leave this up here or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you, Emily, for a really fascinating presentation. I like the interactive nature of it. I need to up my game for my presentations. They feel very two-dimensional and last millennium, if I'm honest. Right, should we answer your questions first?
Yeah, of course, whatever you want to
do. We've had the privilege of listening to you. So open it up to the audience. Who's used the toolkits or any of the toolkits so far?
I know there's some of you because you answered the poll.
Yeah.
Or was that all just Jen clicking all the buttons?
Yeah.
Have you used any of the toolkits, John?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
The toolkits I've seen kind of stuff that CIfA's put out about the toolkits, and I kind of thought, oh, a lot of them to do with fines. But the one that was on kind of public engagement, there's certainly something there that I shall be having a look at. And then, I mean, we do commission post excavation, but that's other folk who tend to be doing that on our behalf. But it does kind of, I suppose, kind of lead to the question. So I see that in the chat, Jen said that the Alice Catamol report led to a creation of these number of these toolkits, and was that was solely in England, that report? It didn't kind of stray across the border in
no,
into
you're
Wales
right.
at all.
Yes, yeah. I shouldn't sully the name of Welsh report writers, because it was just English reports that were assessed in this project. And it is also useful to note, Jen and I discussed this earlier, we thought this might come up, that the toolkits are, as they're created with Historic England funding, they are mostly England centred.
Yeah.
However, there were large advisory boards on these toolkit projects, and they were sent for consultation beyond the English border. So as much as possible, I think they have been created. Thank you, Jen, giving me a thumbs up. As much as possible, they have been, created with a wider United Kingdom in mind.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I'm involved in heritage management. I provide advice for scheduled monument consent applications, and we get consulted by local planning authorities on developments that impact on the setting of kind of scheduled monuments. And very often we're kind of either advising or kind of suggesting conditions, and very often we'll say that work needs to be undertaken to the standards and guidance of CIfA. So I guess we should be, as best practice, adding toolkits now as well.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that we've sort of seen from especially the specialist reporting toolkit, which I believe was the first toolkit to come out. We have started to get specialist reports commissioned saying, we want you to write a type 1 report, we want you to write a type 2 report. So it is a useful kind of terminology for multiple different people working in the sector to use, so that everyone knows what you're talking about. And I think that is maybe one of the greatest strengths of the toolkits, is they're kind of like a good touchstone for everyone.
Okay, and are there other toolkits in preparation at the moment?
I've heard rumor of a CBM toolkit. I think that might be under project sort of like what's it called, proposal design. But I think I would say again, go Jen.
There was mention of a CBM toolkit. That we haven't kind of followed up on that one yet. So, but there has been mention. There's been other fines related ideas mentioned, but then there is a possibility one coming up on sort of stratigraphy and post-excavation analysis of data. So that's a potential one to keep your eyes out. That's very much in a project development stage at the moment with Keith May at Historic England.
Great.
So, but any feedback as well on potential toolkit ideas would be very welcome. And just to say as well that we are seeing a number of local authorities starting to request, in addition to work to be undertaken in accordance with standards and guidance, we're also seeing a lot more reference in briefs and things to specific toolkits, particularly specialist reporting, but Dig Digital, and now also public engagement as well. So it's really great seeing that the toolkit being developed and then sort of being embedded in practice and being fed into the standards and guidance. And so, yeah, any feedback anyone has on any of that would be really useful. And thank you again, Emily, for all your help on these too.
Thanks, Jen.
Does anyone in the audience have any suggestions for other toolkits? Oh, comment arrived in the chat there. Yeah.
Golfreen says in the chat, I've not used them yet, but I've started looking through all the pottery toolkit resources and it all looks great. Thanks, Golfreen. I'm pleased you're finding it useful.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking whilst you were presenting, Emily, that we have colleagues in culture division within Welsh Government, and they've recently commissioned consultants to review the provision of kind of national, regional archaeological archive stores in Wales, and they'll be reporting soon. But I mean, there's no kind of secret what the major issues are: lack of space in museums, lack of funding, people wanting to thin out collections to make space, lack of archaeological knowledge to determine what's significant, what isn't. And I was wondering whether there was merit in developing a toolkit looking at the museum end of kind of artifacts for retention, disposal, addressing all those kind of questions that you come across in a museum environment, where it might not necessarily be an archaeologist who is having to make those decisions, and could really help.
They're rationalising archaeological archives that are already there, rather than us preventing the bad stuff from getting to you.
As well as you know, having to make decisions about how to or whether to accept collections over the next 5 to 10 years. And then other things that struck me as possibilities for toolkits, just kind of we have lots of instances in Wales of members of the public finding human remains, particularly on the coast where they're out walking, and the police don't know what to do. The members of the public don't. Very often, questions are being fielded to HENEB and to CADU, and perhaps a toolkit just explaining, who does what, who has what responsibility, what other kinds of consents, permissions you might require in order to kind of be lawful, basically, might be helpful.
Yeah, Jen and I were talking a bit about this earlier as well. Oh yes, that would be useful if that was raised with the Osteo group. But we could possibly look at creating info sheets for things where a whole toolkit might not be useful.
Yes.
Yeah. So that sounds like a really good contender for that.
Yeah. Okay. Any other suggestions from the audience at all?
Yeah, there's some. Golfreen was suggesting maybe a conservation toolkit, and also an archaeological project management toolkit. Which, given that you can no longer get to the morph stuff online, what's that? I can never remember what the acronym is. But you used to be able to access that as a course, and I don't think it exists anymore. That might be very useful. Anyway, I think that might be it from the chat. But
yeah,
feel free to email us. Oh, I should put the fines. I'll put the fines email address in the chat. So if you want any fines questions, if you want to collaborate on training, if you want to join the fines group, just ping us an email. We also have a lot of social medias which Girlfriend, can you put our social medias in the chat, please, as our comms officer? Where you feel free to follow us, that we'd love to have you there.
Absolutely, thank you. Can I ask, what's how long have the toolkits been around for?
I think, oh gosh, is the first one was maybe 20. Oh, go Jen.
I think if memory serves, at least 2018, 2019. Oh, that's when they were first sort of born. It was basically, I think the archive selection toolkit may have been one of the first, and then a number then stemmed from the publication of Alice Cattermole's report, and that was published in 2017. So around a few years now, and we just never really expected them to take off as they did, but they've proven to be a really great vehicle for the delivery of good practice guidance and resources. So we're just running with it, and hopefully they'll remain to be useful. So yeah, been around a while.
Have they had a generally kind of positive, beneficial impact on kind of professional behaviour? And
that's one of the things that we're trying to capture in a more formalized fashion at the moment through kind of the creation of an evaluation framework. Emily mentioned earlier measures and things, but we've got some really great anecdotal feedback from people utilizing it, and we've also managed to capture some data. So for example, as part of the Dig Digital project, we managed to get data via ADS about how many people were implementing data management plans, and you can see a spike after the toolkit had sort of been introduced, and things like that. So we're trying to capture that more formally, just to really see if we can identify where practice may have changed, or for the better, hopefully, in some areas. And we're getting to the point with some of those toolkits where we're 5-6 years down the line, where you're probably going to start picking up some of those changes. So yeah, we're trying to do it mixture through surveys and feedback and things like that. But at the moment, we're trying to formalize it just to make sure that we're having the impacts that we want them to have. And if not, how can we amend them to do that? So yeah, it's very much a work in progress, but so far the feedback has been good. And we encourage feedback from people that are finding any issues with usability on them, because as Emily said, we can go in and edit them where possible, and we can make changes where, say, practice may have changed. So we want to make sure that they remain up to date and almost fluid in that way.
Great, thank you. Right, do we have any final questions for Emily from the audience? There's some great resources that are being shared in the chat. They're coming thick and fast.
Yeah, I also want to just note that even if you don't fancy reading what's in the toolkit itself, if you just skip to the resources, it's also a really great place to signpost to other useful resources.